Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Should we sit here? Yeah.
Here. Hello, good afternoon. So my name is Robin. I'm the founding editor of Tech.eu. I apologize beforehand for my voice. It's a little bit of an overdose of karaoke last night. My apologies. But I'm very delighted to have Danae here today, founder of Indiegogo. I'm sure I don't need to introduce Indiegogo, but still, what's Indiegogo? Just for the basics.
Indiegogo is we help entrepreneurs bring their products to life, very simply. We got started back in 2008 with a mission to unite people around the ideas that matter to them, and together make those ideas happen and come to life. And with that, we noticed the biggest challenge in getting your ideas off the ground was funding. So we got to work and we created a platform which ended up inventing the crowdfunding industry. So a lot of people know us from that. And since then, we've helped entrepreneurs tackle the challenges after that. So after funding, we help you with pre-sales with our product called In Demand. After that, we help you actually sell your product. We just launched a marketplace. And just last week, we launched equity crowdfunding. So now you can actually raise investment dollars from investors all across the world.
Yeah, and we're going to dive into your new products a little deeper soon. But 2008 is not that long ago, but at the same time, in tech, it's an eternity ago.
Yeah.
So how have you seen like the overall crowdfunding industry change over time? Because I know you were one of the early ones, probably the first one pioneering. Yeah. How's it evolved since then?
When we launched, the word crowdfunding didn't exist, and I think the early years was a lot of effort was put in just trying to convince people that the internet was a great way to connect with audiences and raise money. It's kind of funny to think about that, but again, I remember those early years. We got laughed at, we got ridiculed. My co-founder Slava, who was actually out trying to raise a traditional round of capital to help us grow, got rejected over 90 times because our idea was this cute little thing that would never work. So I think we're clearly not there anymore, and I think the perseverance and the world encompassing and embracing this concept that, yeah, we should put the power back into the hands of the people to decide which ideas should happen. While venture investors are really important and can help ideas scale, they're also just one opinion. You know, there's small groups of people. They can't know what the world wants. So if we create a system where we empower the people to tell the world what they want, to fund what entrepreneurs that they want to fund, then actually ideas that come out are far more successful, and they're far more relevant. So I think today we're in a place where, you know, what we're really focused on is crowdfunding for us is just a tool in an entrepreneur's toolkit in their path to success. And we've noticed that there's so many other obstacles and challenges along this long, non-linear path to success. And so what we're really focused on is adding tools to the toolkit. What will help them at every step of the way? Right. Whether it's, you know, we have manufacturing partnerships now. So once you raise all your money and you're ready to go build something, we actually help you get it built and distributed, which is really important.
It's really important. It's also one of the biggest criticisms on crowdfunding and ongoing. It's always there. Mm-hmm. The risk of funding something that's supposed to be delivered at some point, and there's always a delay. Mm-hmm. Like, what percentage of campaigns actually follow up on their promise for a delivery date?
I mean, there's always estimates. So one thing that we've done is, again, you know, 10 years ago, this problem didn't exist because regular people weren't allowed to fund things. We've kind of blown that up. We've democratized access to capital. We've leveled the playing field, put the power in the hands of the people. So with that, there's been new challenges that have arisen. So one thing that what we care deeply about is, how do we bring as much transparency and clarity to the experience for everybody involved? So, for example, we have funding now, but we also allow entrepreneurs to do pre-orders, and then we also now allow entrepreneurs to sell something. So at every different stage, there's a different risk appetite and risk profile. So when you use in-demand versus a crowdfunding campaign versus using the marketplace, your backers know how risky your business is. So I think a lot of work that we've been focused on is making sure it's very clear how risky it is or what stage that entrepreneur is in and where their product is. So also within crowdfunding, we've offered things like product stages. So now you can say, are you in this concept phase, which is very high risk, or are you closer to shipping, which is far lower risk? And so by empowering backers to know how close to reality you are, they can kind of understand, they can look at their own risk appetite and see where they're willing to engage.
Right. There's this notion, and actually a fact, that increasingly great companies can be built anywhere in the world, and great entrepreneurs can come from anywhere in the world. Yeah. Is that something you've also noticed at Indiegogo?
Yeah. So I always tell my team, our headquarters are in San Francisco, but we have a team everywhere. I always tell my team, look, we will have done our job if the world stops seeing Silicon Valley as the center of entrepreneurship, because it's not. There is entrepreneurship everywhere. There's the spirit everywhere. I mean, just look at this room. Like, hello. And the reason that belief can exist is because that's where a lot of the capital has been. And so entrepreneurs feel like they have to go there to get the capital. That's what we're trying to blow up. Like, if we can actually make the capital source the people, which are your customers who are everywhere, you don't need to go to the valley. You can actually be successful on your own turf, on your own terms, serving your own customers, whether they're in your own hood or across the world.
Right. So you mentioned that very recently, about 2 weeks ago, you launched equity crowdfunding. Mm-hmm. Now for me, when I looked at crowdfunding, there was also a very clear distinction. It was reward-based, perk-based crowdfunding, and then there was equity crowdfunding, where essentially you gave a financial incentive to the backers. Mm-hmm. Now that line is blurring, at least for Indiegogo, because now you do both. How do you think that will change the dynamics of the market? Yeah.
And first, before I go to that question, I just want to give a shout out to an amazing Helsinki-based entrepreneur group, the Eve V folks. They actually just launched on Indiegogo last week. They broke a record being the fastest to $100,000 ever across any platform, and they just broke $1 million. What's so cool about them is that they've created the first ever crowd-developed computer. So 1,000 people collaborated online, and now thousands of people are funding it to make this thing happen. So I think that is like cutting edge. You can't get any more crazy cool than that, and they're from Helsinki. So right. Point delivered. Go Helsinki, yeah. Go Helsinki. If you guys want to meet them, I think they're at the Microsoft booth, so go find them. And they've got some cool perks, limited only, so go claim them. Anyways, but with respect to your question about equity crowdfunding, I think it's really interesting. One thing, I talked about the early days when we were trying to launch Indiegogo. My original vision was democratizing access to investing. And then I met my co-founders, and they convinced me. They're like, look, if you really want to democratize access to capital, you have to use this thing called the internet. It's a way better democratizing force. This was back in 2006. MySpace was all the rage. Facebook was still college only. I don't even know if Twitter actually existed then yet. So this was super early. And I said, that's great, but you actually can't invest online because that would be illegal. So that, rather than try to do all that, we figured out, well, let's prove that the internet's a great way to raise money, and we came up with the perks concept. It was a total experiment. It stuck, and it's kind of gotten us to this place today. But through that process, everyone was saying no one will fund, no one's going to use this. Like, if you don't get an investment, if you can't get a profit participation, what's going to motivate anybody to fund? So we tried the perks, it happened, and in the process, we unlocked these other motivations that we discovered in people that made them want to fund something. It wasn't just the perks, it was also about supporting people, and it was also about passion and participating in something that they thought was really important in the world. So as we add equity crowdfunding, we just kind of look at that as another P. We call them the 4 Ps, people, passion, perk, and now profit. So what's exciting is that we're going to learn this because literally we just launched this, but we're going to learn, is it just one P that motivates people? Is it just profit when you're investing in something via equity crowdfunding? Or is it a combination of other things? Maybe you're passionate about the project and you want to see it happen and you want a chance to make a little money in it as well. So we're going to unpack that and explore it. But so far, in the perks-based model over the last several years, we've learned that there's often multiple motivations at play, and the most successful businesses that raise the most money appeal to all those different motivations. They don't just try to sell their product. They talk about who they are as a people and their team and why they're passionate about the project and what the impact of this project is in the world.
Sure.
And then all the other things like what perks you can get, et cetera.
Sure. Tell us more about Marketplace.
Marketplace. Oh, it's a brand new pilot. We're excited. What we're finding is that as you've raised money via funding and then you need to transition to commerce, we found that people needed a stepping stone there. All of a sudden you've done all this work to do an amazing funding campaign, and then it stopped. And so we launched In Demand a couple years ago, which is the ability to take pre-sales after your funding campaign is over. And then we continue to get feedback where people wanted to move all the way into straight up selling once they're actually shipping their product. Why again lose all the momentum that you've built all along the way in this journey? So we just launched the marketplace. If you're interested, let us know. I have my colleague here, head of Europe, Joel. Where are you? He's got his Indiegogo hat on. We're actually offering something special for Slush. I was supposed to be here 2 years ago and we couldn't make it happen. I was really pissed because one of the I think crowdfunding got started because one of the most amazing stories of crowdfunding that happened before crowdfunding was a word was the story of these filmmakers who made Iron Sky. Right. From Finland. And I think we have Finland to thank for crowdfunding. So I'm very excited to be here. And because of that, what we want to do is offer everybody here a chance to get free one-on-one coaching from Joel. And so I think I have a number here. If you text this number that's about to go up behind me, if you text Slush 16 to this number, we're going to give free one-on-one coaching to the first 10 people who sign up, as well as another 20 people at random. So if you want help from us, we're here to help you.
Oh, I hope we can show the slides
Hopefully
soon.
that number will go up soon.
I'm sure it will. So in the meantime, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but do you know the percentage of campaigns that don't reach their targets versus the ones that do? What's the percentage?
Oh, that's interesting. So we have two different types of funding. Like if you use Indiegogo for funding only.
We have the number.
We have the number here. So if you want help, text. We have fixed funding and we have flexible funding. So flexible funding is the ability to raise as much money as you can, and you get the money no matter what. Right. And then fixed funding is the approach where you only get the money if you reach your goal. So we actually have found that the flexible funding is far more useful to more of our campaigns because there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that will use the money no matter what to move the product forward. And actually, the fixed funding is really only useful for a very specific use case, which is you will only move forward on a project if you get a minimum amount for that one milestone. And so what we found is that we actually don't track. We track how much people are raising and really how successful they are actually making it to the next milestone. So, I mean, on that regard, over $1 billion has been raised. At any given time, there's thousands of campaigners on our site. Some people are reaching the goal, some people are not. A lot of people who aren't actually reaching their funding targets are in the process learning a lot, and we're actually, some people think they have the best idea in the world, then they come on Indiegogo that doesn't get any traction, and they realize that they didn't have something quite the world want. Right. And actually, failing on Indiegogo in 2 weeks was like the best thing that they had ever done because they learned in 2 weeks that they need to work a lot more on their idea and maybe come out again later or learn from the process. And we just saved them 2 years of their life and all their personal savings investing in something that was never going to see the light of day.
Sense. And what's the average amount that a campaign raises?
It really depends. So it's, again, at Indiegogo, we actually don't define success by dollars. I mean, a lot of the physical product-based businesses that launch on Indiegogo, they often do really well in terms of numbers. Millions of dollars. Like the biggest campaign we ever had was for a flow hive, which is basically a hive, a machine that is gentle on the bees and allows you to tap honey just like a beer tap.
I remember that one. That was a cool one.
They raised $12 million. They came out of Australia, just a father-son team who were passionate about saving the bees. But those type of products, I think, do really well because their audiences are global, because people across the world will want that. But we see a ton of success around small businesses. We have a dairy farm in Tasmania right now that is trying to expand production into cheese making. They're not going to be the $12 million campaign because they don't need $12 million. They need $10,000 or $20,000. That's enough to actually take their business to the next level. So that to us is success, like getting them to what they need to move forward, not necessarily purely by the numbers.
Right. So you've just launched a series of new products. But I'm still going to ask, what's the next step? What do you want to democratize access to capital for everyone? What does that mean? What is 2017 going to bring?
Furless, first of all, we're really focused on our equity crowdfunding pilot and our marketplace and really building out that and innovating, continuing to iterate based on customer needs. So that's been a big focus. I think another big focus for us is really building out all the services at every touch point in an entrepreneur's life cycle. So once you're done funding and it's time to, hit China and figure out the right manufacturer. We just launched this amazing partnership with Arrow, which is probably one of the biggest companies you've never heard of, or a lot of the electronic and hardware entrepreneurs, you guys probably have heard of them. But what we've done is we've partnered with them where they can actually bring our entrepreneurs feasibility help. They can look at their designs and give them feedback. They can help with manufacturing, figuring out the right factories to go to, helping you navigate. So there's so many different steps along the way to taking your idea from concept all the way to market that we're going to be really focused on all the different failure points that if we just supported a little more and created a way to provide equal access to support there, just like we provided equal access to capital, then we think we are doing our job in really democratizing access to entrepreneurship so that you don't have to have 20 years of R&D experience in a lab before breaking out on your own. You can get started knowing that Indiegogo is going to be there every step of the way.
And crowdfunding has done a lot of, if you look at the early stage funding environments globally, it's changed quite a bit because of crowdfunding, angel investments. So how is your relationship with the professional VC community, the professional investors that typically step in after they've raised their seed round or the crowdfunding round? Is that important to you to have that relationship with these VCs?
Yeah. A lot of people say, are you guys putting the VCs out of business?
Yeah, it's the opposite.
I say it's the opposite. I say no.
Creating deal flow for them.
We're creating deal flow for them. We're creating more pipeline of giving them access to entrepreneurs that maybe their networks wouldn't have gotten to them. We're also giving, we're not just providing a pipeline, but one thing that the crowdfunding does do is it does give entrepreneurs something that venture investors can't give them, which is market validation, market data. Specifically on Indiegogo, we created such a flexible experience where you could swap your perks out, test your pricing, test your messaging, test colors, test all this stuff. We had a campaign and Miss It Shine. It was an activity tracker where the guy was convinced that if the differentiator of his product was it was going to be elegant, it was going to hide in your clothes, not like a clunky bracelet. So he came out of the gate, he used our perks infrastructure, he tested the pricing, and he found that people were willing to pay more for their $50 version than their silver version, which was a shock because he thought it was going to be the other way around. And then the crowd started, championing to him and saying, we want things like necklaces and bracelets. And at first he wanted to argue back with his customers and say, no, that's not the point. Right. And then he realized he's debating with his customers, and you never do that as an entrepreneur. And so he said, let's put it to the test. And so he put up a bracelet and necklace perk, and overnight it got claimed. And so he basically unlocked a whole new revenue stream. So we've had entrepreneurs that have changed their product roadmaps because it's not just funding that's happening, it's this collaboration that's being unlocked. And your early adopters can give you some of the best guidance based on what they want. And that's real data. No focus group can give you that. So because of that, this market validation and market testing benefits that you get, venture investors can't do that. And so what that means is that venture investors, they have to differentiate themselves based on something else besides the ability to provide capital to help you grow. Right. Because now the crowd can give you the capital and they can give you all this market data. So I think it's a golden era. I think it's an amazing time because really what's going to happen is venture investors are then going to start to differentiate themselves on what other things do they add value in, sure. Whether it's relationships, their industry expertise, which is just as important. But that's really what should matter to the entrepreneur.
We're out of time, but I'm going to ask you a really quick final question. What's the weirdest or the dumbest idea you've ever seen on Indiegogo?
The weirdest idea. Well, I wouldn't say it's weird because I'm ecstatic that it happened, but when it happened, I was shocked. The first baby was crowdfunded on Indiegogo.
Baby?
So, baby. Because we're open, what's one thing that's very unique to Indiegogo? Inclusiveness and meritocracy and empowerment. Those are the core values, core principles that we stand upon. We don't judge. So if you have something you want to try to raise money for, by all means, we give you every chance to do it. It just can't be illegal or fraud or things like that, and we take care of that too. But this couple came to us, and they had been trying to have a baby for a really long time. They couldn't conceive naturally, but they didn't have the money. They couldn't afford in vitro fertilization. And so they came to Indiegogo within a couple weeks. They had enough money, and 9 months later, they had a baby.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
We're out of time. Thank you so much, Danae.
Thanks, guys.
Big round of
everybody.
applause.